Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you are doing well. As you can tell by the title and the thumbnail of this video, we are here with my gather round review because it has been one of those weeks where we have absolutely rocketed up the ranks. We've gone from outside the top 10K to inside the top 5K. As you can see right here, round 5 ranking of 2361 and a round 5 score of 2116 has absolutely catapulted me up the rankings. I think we're about 11.5 at the start of gather round, and we've gone all the way into 4.6, which for me, huge movement in the ranks. I got 2 benching decisions wrong this week, which has probably cost me, what's that, 50 to, what's that? That's left on field there is 30 points between DeConning and Trainer, and I left another 20 points from Garcia to Hall. So if I went Trainer and Garcia, probably would have been inside 4K, but again, it's still early days. There's still plenty of time to make up that ground that we've given up at the start of the season. But from 25K from round 1 to inside 5K inside round 5, I think we've done a pretty good job. So I don't want to spend heaps of time going through the team and the decisions. I want to talk a bit more trade targets, a bit more what I'm thinking ahead of round 6. But as you can tell in the defence, very, very happy with everybody bar an SDK. Nazaya with 3 goals to get to his 102. Jaden Short late clutched up to get to 103. Roberts and Bice. Look, Roberts isn't fantastic right now, but he's still a good footballer. He plays Port Adelaide this week. I think there's points there for him. And a Zach Reed at 90 and a Trainer at 90. Tom Stewart, really frustrating because if he'd gotten up and even if he'd scored a 90 over an SDK, I wouldn't have had to have that benching headache. I was pretty strong on Reed over Trainer, which is ironic that they scored the same just because of that Melbourne matchup. But the Tom Stewart injury just got me worried a little bit about what's going to go on. I thought the Crows forwards might play well, which we saw for a half. I thought the ball would be down in Geelong's end. I thought DeConing might get amongst a bit of the kick mark sort of game down back, and he took 6 marks, but he just only had 14 touches, so he just didn't get his hands on the pill enough as a key back, and maybe that was a bit of Geelong's dominance in that second half that maybe took some points away from an SDK. Midfield-wise, Andy Brayshaw got to start there. What an absolute superstar. 100 and what did he score? 23 in the end, and did it late. Got a late +6 at the end just to tip over that 120 mark, which is fantastic. Put the C straight on him. Had no way of really looping. Had really only had a Campriali and Boyd, who both played relatively early. Like it was pretty much Boyd was playing Sunday. I wasn't going to know if he was the sub or not, what was going on there. I was a bit worried about looping anyway, and then DeConing putting a 75 up made my decision pretty easy to roll the captain on Brayshaw, and that's probably what single-handedly moved me up the ranks. Dawson saved a 92 again, started pretty slow. Rosie, 126, looked amazing, especially off of that half-back roll. Clary, Chera just get the job done every week. I just don't think we can really complain too much about them. My Ashcroft boys, again, flying finally. Will Ashcroft, it took him a while to get into this season, 66-90. But now he's gone 115, 105, 101. Goes up against Collingwood, who are favourable matchup. And then St Kilda, who the tag would likely go to a Neil Dunkley or a McCluggage before an Ashcroft. And then into a pretty good run with Gold Coast, North, Melbourne. Gets Essendon in there, gets the Crows in there. So I'm very happy holding a Will Ashcroft. Chera, 101 once again. Just Mr. Consistent, low score of 83, goes into North this week, which again should be a pretty good matchup for Adam Chera, so very happy holding on to him. Lindsay, off an injury, 49 is not the worst score. Break even this week of 49. Would love him against Fremantle over there, I think it is. No, it's at MCG. Hopefully he can find plenty of space and get that cash gen going after that score of 12 against Gold Coast. So hopefully he can keep the cash going, because he's up to 470 now, so he probably needs about a 70 or an 80 really to just turn that break even around, because that 12 is going to sit in the score cycle for a little bit. Gorney back to his best, 49 hit-outs, just dominated against Sam Draper. He's going to go up against underdone Darcy, then into Nank, then into the Eagles, so he's got a good 3-week stretch where I'm very happy owning Max Gorn. McRae disappointing. Then Rankin, Smith, Daniel, just job done, 98, 107, 102. Garcia, Hall, I was just flip-flopping. Some of you might have seen on Twitter that I did a poll and I went against the poll and then it bit me in the butt. So I was worried that Garcia could be the sub. I didn't see 77% time on ground as a possibility for him. I thought he'd be back in that 60s with Steele back in the side, and he didn't really do, 3 marks and 4 tackles. He feels the stats okay, but it was the 23 touches. I didn't expect that from a Hugo Garcia, whereas Max Hall, I thought this is what I was kind of expecting. It was a 60 with a goal, I probably expected a few more marks from what we saw early in the season, but end of the day, 20 points at this stage isn't the worst option there for us to take. Then moving on to the bench, I think we got pretty much all of our main decisions right. So from a bench perspective, we are in a spot now where it's time for us to start looking at some upgrades, because if you look at our bench, I think from a structure perspective, it's going to be really hard not to play at least 2 of Bice, Reed and Trainer. Again, I don't know if going to 3 is the option, because it just doesn't give you that flexibility whatsoever to pivot out of that structure because of obviously the money that you're then going to be putting in across the rest of the team. Also, I think there's going to be some matchups where I wouldn't want to be playing a Reed or a Trainer, so you want to be able to bounce whoever's got the best fixture out of those two to go with a Riley Bice. I feel like Bice is going to be someone who, regardless of matchup, will be a good option. When you're getting 15 and 7 marks from good time on ground as well, he's going to be a high kick volume type of player, and Sydney are going to be a side who are going to recycle the ball quite a lot from their half-back line. So I think when it comes to Riley Bice, I think he's just going to be an option that we lock in our D5 slot, and then you want to go ahead with a Reed or a Trainer depending on matchup. Midfield rooks, again, Campriali, Hasty, they need to get fixed up pretty soon as well. I think there are some other options like a Connor Stone, who probably is running his course. Again, he had 4 marks this week, but still only scored a 43. His break even's up to 30. He's only scoring 28s, 43s, 40s. Like, he's just not scoring. So I think when it comes to a Connor Stone, he's someone that will have to go. I think at this stage, Garcia and Hall probably have to stay. I think they've got the potential to hit consistent 60s. So I think that they're going all right. Same with a Lindsay, he's fine. A Christian Moraes, it's a bit disappointing after the start we saw him make. His time on ground's been good. Obviously not as good as that Essendon game. He has had 2 hard fixtures now with Hawthorn, and he'll have Sydney, which won't be easy for him, but I think his job security is okay. His break-even's at 25, so if he can pop off a 65-70 this week and then go into North, Bulldogs, Crows, and Geelong and Fremantle, it's not a bad run into his bye to hopefully make us some cash. So on that note, from a trade perspective, this is what I did last week. So we went Freyr and O'Driscoll to Bice and Brayshaw. This week coming, I've made the moves of De Koning down to Asado Hawley. Now, this is obviously very dependent on if he's named as the sub or not, but the West Coast fixture is going to be absolutely massive for someone like Asado Hawley. Again, this is just an enabler in order to get Stone all the way up to Horne-Francis. This then means I don't have the benching headache of Garcia or Hall, because I'll just play both of them on the bench, and I'll go with Davidson against, I think they got Fremantle, do they? No, they got St Kilda at Marvel. Yep, they got St Kilda at Marvel. Davidson gets another run there at F6, but when you've got McRae, Smith, Rankin, Horne-Francis and Caleb Daniel, I think that's what I'll be doing in my forward line. Obviously, Tom Stewart comes back in off the bench, and then I'm making the decision of, Optus Stadium, Zach Reed, exit kicks versus Richmond, who have the Gold Coast. Again, I see them probably scoring pretty similar. I'm not too bothered who I go here, but I'll probably go Reed. Expecting Essendon to probably dominate that game, chip the ball around quite a bit, and get Reed involved in the kick mark game. That could change. At this stage, I do have the captain on Andy Brayshaw, because Melbourne just suck, and I'd be targeting anyone from Fremantle, but they are my early trade thoughts. This doesn't mean that these are going to be my final trade thoughts, but this is what I'm looking at early into the week ahead of round 6. But if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what your trade dilemmas are. I will reply to pretty much every comment in the comments. But I hope you do enjoy the content that we're putting out on the channel. I'm going to try and get a little bit more out this week compared to the one video a week at the moment. So hopefully I can at least get a bit of an updated captain / sort of team final lock-in video later in the week. But this is what I'm looking at. Let's see if we can push that rank into the top 3K this week. That would be great. But I'll see you guys very, very soon for another video.